Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon Penrod.
And I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm so glad to have you back. I know I took a little bit of time off, and you had a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
And so thrilled to have you back.
Thank you.
And wonderful. We had, last week we had Holly Robinson on the show.
Yes, we got a lot of feedback on that show.
Yes.
And
wasn't she delightful?
She was delightful. And, you know, I wrote a blog that I said it was 3 autism moms sitting around talking. And no matter what she has achieved in her life, you have achieved, I have achieved, I said to our viewers that the most important thing for us is being the loving, supporting parents of children with autism, and other children too if you have them. We happen to be moms of single children.
Yeah.
But that truly, I believe, we all would agree is our greatest accomplishment, is being successful mothers to them.
Some days I don't agree that I am successful. You know, I have that day where I go, I don't know how good I'm doing today.
I hear you on that one. I hear you on that one.
But yes, the days when I can say, you know, I'm showing up for my kid, I stand taller, I walk taller, I breathe better on those days.
And the reason you and I are here is because of the fact that you have Jim, a son on the spectrum, and I have Wyatt, a son on the spectrum. And it really has been, it's been the path. I've followed this path. I always say I didn't choose it. It chose me. It was presented to me, and I believe things happen for a reason.
I do too.
And I'm so happy to be here to share this hour with you every week.
Likewise.
And with our parents at home and professionals at home that are listening.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to have you guys with us. We didn't get an opportunity last week to talk about stuff in the news. So we want to talk about some things in the news, a couple of quick things. I'm really excited about this. Autism Research Institute has partnered with the Schaefer Autism Report. And we have to say we love the Schaefer Autism Report.
I was just going to say that, Shannon, thank goodness for the Schaefer Autism Report. We get a lot of our news from Schaefer. If you do not subscribe to the Schaefer Autism Report,
you should.
You absolutely should. It gives you all the latest research, articles, anything in the world happening about autism. It's a global report, and it really keeps you informed, and you can really see the big picture of how things are in the world with autism.
Now, you subscribe to it on your computer, so you get an email.
And it's not very expensive. It's extremely reasonable, as I recall.
And I have it as an app on my phone, which is free.
The app is free. There you go.
The app is free.
So where do you go for the app? Can you tell everybody?
I just went to the App Store on my Android. I don't know on iPhones, but on my Android, I went to the App Store and I put in Schaefer Autism Report, and there it was, and I could get the free. Now, here's the not wonderful about the free is that I can't look up back articles. They refresh, they put a new article up, and that's what I can see. I can't reference back things. So if you're wanting to have the backlog and keep things and be able to print them out, I can't print out from my phone.
You should get
you should get the other, but it's very economical.
Yeah, you can find it. Schaefer, SCHAFER, Autism Report, SAR.
Yeah, and it's wonderful, you know, so it's a little button, and I push it, and I can see the most recent stuff. It's fabulous. If I've got time, you know, I'm stuck someplace for a few minutes, I can look at the Schaefer and the SAR, as we call it here. But in any case, they've paired together, Autism Research Institute and SARS have paired together to create a free newsletter that's designed just for medical staff. So when you go to your doctor, you take your child to the pediatrician, and we all know, we've all been on this page, right? You go there and you say something about your child having autism, and the doctor says something, and you realize you're not on the same page. They are not up to date. There's information that you would like to have them have, and you know what it's like, where you're handing the information, the doctor says, oh, thank you. And you get that look where they're looking at you like, where did you get this? Off the bottom of somebody's, you know, shoe that they don't really trust. So these are two very reputable organizations that have paired together to make this newsletter that it's for pediatricians, nurses, obstetricians, about current research that is relevant to their practice. How fabulous is this? And they're asking parents to give this information to your doctor and say, hey, you know, it's free. And they can subscribe to the newsletter, and you see the address there that Emily's put up.
Critical Research in Autism. And any pediatrician, I would think, would be interested in getting this information.
Well, you know what, they should be, and if they're not, I would think that that's a red flag.
Yeah.
If you are in their practice and you have a child on the spectrum and they're saying, oh, or, you know, that to me would be a red flag.
Yeah, I would agree.
I know we've had to change doctors over the years a couple of different times.
So have we.
When I left my work, you know, our insurance changed. I'm with a doctor who's great now, who anytime I say to him, you know, well, this or that or the other, ask a question, he says, oh, okay, I don't know about that. Where can I get information?
Good.
And I'm always thrilled to supply him with information. And I come back and he'll talk to me about it and say, you know, I read that whole thing, and he understands more of it than I do. But how great is that? I did not have that for a couple of pediatricians in between.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing. I encourage you to make sure that you have a doctor that you can talk to.
Absolutely.
Also love about my doctor, it's a small practice. If anything happens, there have been a couple of times that my son has gotten the flu or something in the middle of the night, I can call, they call back within 5 minutes, and they have on their phones access to all of our kids' files.
That's great.
At home, whoever, you know, it's this thing that they pass off. And so a couple of times we've had to take him to urgent care. They call from home so that when I get there, they're ready for us.
Great.
It saves us like an hour and a half wait.
Great.
Makes all the difference in the world. A fabulous, fabulous thing. But there's another thing in the news that some research.
Yes. This one was really interesting to me. That they have examined at California Institute of Technology, they've examined the potential link between irregularities in the immune system and autism. Although studies have supported such a correlation in the past, this new study sought to answer whether immune changes play an important role in the development of autism, or are they simply a side effect?
Right.
And basically what they found out that changes in the immune system do contribute to autism-like behaviors in mice. Exhibited behaviors such as compulsively burying marbles in their cage. Now, this is very interesting to me because they were also able to correct many of the autism-like behaviors in the mice by giving them a bone marrow transplant from typical mice. Now, they said it's important to note that this was done on mice, but this backs up, we were talking about doctors, and we see a doctor named Dr. Michael Goldberg, and he's very well known in the autism world. He believes that basically the kind of autism we have today is not autism that we saw 40, 50 years ago, where children never developed typically, they never had language, but is a regressive autism, which is most of the types that we see, where a child develops normally in the first year. And he believes that an immune disorder basically attacks the brain and causes the autism. So it's sort of, he has a book called The Myth of Autism, where he believes it's not classic autism, but rather a whole new strain of autism caused by immune abnormalities. Now we do, I do have Wyatt under his care, and I believe he's really on to something. It's a very interesting study, and we're seeing him on Friday. So I'm gonna run this by him and see what he believes.
And it's interesting. I think there have been a lot of people talking about the immune system and the role that it plays with autism. You know, I was at a conference not too long ago, I guess like 2 years ago, and someone was presenting on immune issues and immunology with autism.
Yes.
And at one point in the lecture, they said something about autoimmune in the parents, in the moms of children with autism, and this murmur went through the group. And I had just recently been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, and so my ears were perked up, right? And afterwards, and I was actually there covering the event for my radio show, and I was talking to different parents at the event, and we would, you know, I'd interview them, and then we were done.
Right.
And when everything was off, the microphones were off, I would say, I'm just curious, for my knowledge, how many of you have been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder? And it was all but one out of all the people I talked to all weekend long. Now, to me, that was interesting, interesting at best, right? Suspect at most. And so, and we see more and more research being done, and I think it's important that the research be done. And this study, to me, it's so important because for the first time we're seeing causation.
Yes.
There's always been this correlation, but for the first time we're seeing causation in mice. I do have to say, and we actually talked a little bit about this with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, this does not mean that we all run out and ask for a bone marrow transplant.
No, of course not.
We are nowhere near that.
Yeah. Mice and human beings are very far apart.
Very different. Yeah. But interesting that this is where the research is going. I'm terribly interested, you know, because of my immune issues, to see where this goes.
Well, you know, I'll talk to Dr. Michael Goldberg about it on Friday and get his feedback, because I'll bring back that to share with all of you.
Okay, exciting. But lovely that they're doing and there's lots more to talk about in the coming weeks that's coming up. Okay. But exciting feedback. But we had the opportunity last week, after we talked with Holly Robinson Peete, to sit down with an amazing woman.
A board member of ACT Today.
Yes.
Actually, she was on the board before I came on as executive director. Gabriella Teissier.
I mangle her name.
Okay.
I mangled it earlier, so I'm glad you said it.
Gabriella Teissier. Gabriella and her husband Rafael Lunetta are on our board. Beautiful exotic names, right?
I know, aren't they gorgeous?
And yes, and Gabriella is gorgeous, and she is an anchor at UniVision.
Yes.
She anchors their morning newscast, among other things. And they have two beautiful boys, one on the autism spectrum, Enzo, and she is the I guess the ambassador, the face of our ACT Espanol program at ACT Today, which is designed specifically to target autism in the Hispanic Latino community.
Yes.
And she was here to tape a segment, a DVD that we're going to be offering, and we'll be letting you know about that soon through ACT Today's website. And we'll be sending that video, that DVD. It also has Dr. Evelyn Garcia from CARD. And Gabriella interviewed Dr. Evelyn, and we're going to be making that available to the public. We're just now ramping up that program to see what other materials and things we're going to have help for our Hispanic families.
Which is so wonderful, Nancy. I really have to commend you. That's a wonderful thing that you're doing, because it's a population that really needs some
It does. And in a minute we're going to go to that interview that we did last week, where she really talks a lot about that, about the cultural pressure to have a child that does not have a disability. But in addition to that, we do have a wonderful production intern, I guess would be her title, at ACT Today. She's working with you and me on this show, Alejandra.
She's wonderful.
And Alejandra is available at our ACT Today offices. If you need to make a call about the grant program at ACT Today, you can call 705-1625, 818-705-1625. And you can also email info@act-today.org. And Alejandra will call you back and speak to you in Spanish. A lot of times the language is a big barrier.
Absolutely.
And we also have materials about warning signs, where to get an assessment, how to get an assessment, what are the important first stages. That's already there in Spanish.
Wonderful. All right, so let's take a look at our interview with Gabriella, and you'll see what we're talking about. She's amazing, dynamic, beautiful.
Yes, she is.
I don't know, I'm choking. But she is, she's wonderful. So take a look, and we'll be back live with you in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon Penrod.
And I'm Nancy Osbaugh-Jackson. And we have a very special guest with us in the studio today, Gabriella Teissier, who is a television personality on UniVision Anchor, and she is also an ACT Today board member, along with her husband, Rafael Lunetta. and an autism warrior mom.
Welcome to the show.
Shannon, thank you. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nancy mentioned that you are a very well-known personality on UniVision. Tell us what you do there.
Well, I'm a news anchor there, and I'm in charge of the morning show. Our show starts at 5 a.m. and it goes on until 7. That means that I wake up in the wee hours to get ready and prepared, and then once I'm done, I get to keep on doing my second job, which is being a mom of a child that is 12 years old and another child with a diagnosis.
Yes, and tell us your boys' names and
my oldest child is Etienne, and the little one is Mr. Enzo.
Yes, and Enzo is on the autism spectrum.
Yes, he was diagnosed when he was a little bit shy of 3 years old.
Okay, and you were on the board of Act Today before I came on as a board member and then eventually became executive director. How did, first of all, you come from the diagnosis of Enzo when he was 3 to really becoming an advocate for other families with autism?
Really, Nancy, it's my honor to be serving in this board because I see that there's so much need. When my son Enzo was diagnosed, it was very hard for me to navigate the system.
Yes.
I was born and raised in Mexico City. My first language is Spanish.
Yeah.
But I also speak German and I speak English. So once I was there in these meeting rooms with these very important people and they were telling me all these things, I felt like they were speaking Chinese to me.
Yes.
I couldn't understand a word, and I'm like, here I am with, you know, with all these things that I know in life, and I cannot understand what they're saying. I could only imagine what all these other families go through. I said, somebody needs to help them.
Okay, and so I might add, Shannon, that we have a program that we've just started called Act Español, and Gabriella is actually here today to do an informational DVD with Dr. Evelyn Garcia that we're going to make available to our families out there in the Hispanic community that are dealing with an autism diagnosis. So.
Which is so wonderful, because we know the statistics show that autism is something that crosses all barriers, right? It's not just something that happens to people who speak English. And as you said, I can't imagine. I know when my child was diagnosed, I felt overwhelmed. And I remember thinking, if English were not my first language, what would this be like? So I'm so glad that you're here and that you are such an outspoken advocate and so involved to help families. What are some of the special considerations for a family that is Spanish speaking when they have a child that's diagnosed? Because there are some special concerns, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, services are not that readily available when you think that a lot of our Hispanic community is here undocumented or in the process of becoming documented, and at that point you feel that you don't deserve anything, that these services are not for you, and you just like hide away. Then there's another part of it that is very important that we touch on, and it's cultural boundaries. In the Hispanic community, it's still very taboo to speak about a son who's not perfect. And that is so key, that we start in our community to say, you know, it's not the dad, it's not the mom, we still don't know what it is.
Yes.
Let's stop blaming each other and let's just focus on trying to get the child better. Because we spend a lot of time dwelling on it when we should be acting.
Yes.
Really important.
So,
being the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we just recently interviewed Holly Robinson Peete, and she spoke about, you know, particularly in the athletic community, her husband being a football superstar, how difficult it is for fathers with this macho, you know, not my son. Actually, Rodney Peete wrote a book called this. And so this is very common, but you're saying particularly common in the Hispanic community.
Yeah, and not only children with autism, but with disabilities all across the board. It's only now that we're starting to talk about it and we're starting to address it. We know that there is, for years, I mean, we have families that have kids with other disabilities and they've been hiding them for several reasons. One of them, lack of knowledge, and then also, you know, because as a community, we don't have those support systems. So where do you go? Well, rather not go anywhere. You just stay in your house.
Right.
And then somebody finds out that you had a child that is 20 years old and has been hidden forever in the back room. And that's very sad, but the great news is that we're addressing it and we're moving forward and we're putting information out there in Spanish and we're talking about it in churches, community meetings, and schools, and that's important.
That's really incredible and so wonderful that you're a big part of that.
And you have been instrumental. We have now brochures available for families in Spanish that they can go to the Act Today website and they can get those materials. We're in the midst of translating more materials from Center for Autism and Related Disorders for the Hispanic community, as well as taping the DVD today. And we have a fair that you participate in at UniVision. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, for the past few years, UniVision has been putting together an educational fair, and it's once a year, and it's all about education. But then last year, I was already saying we should add that other component for kids that don't learn like the other kids, for kids that have other abilities, kids with autism. But let's just try to give them a little bit of information to these families. They pour by the thousands out there. Last year we had 45,000 people attending this fair, and it's a free fair. You get all the materials for free from different vendors, and they not only want your business, we're talking also you know, free stuff that you can access. So they just want you to know that it's out there for you. And we participated as ACT in Espanol, and I was so happy to see families coming in and just breaking that ice.
And this year, is it coming up?
Yes, we're doing it. We're doing it. It's in October.
Okay, and you'll be able to find that on our Act Today website on upcoming events when we get the date. You will be there giving information, and hopefully we'll have even more materials for Spanish-speaking families that have had children recently diagnosed or diagnosed in the past.
And also for people who just think that there might be something that is not completely right there. Because some kids don't even have a diagnosis yet. And we want to find them, because if you find it early, of course you can intervene early and get a much better result.
And that is in fact what you did with your child, correct? You started early. How old was he when you started?
Yeah, a little bit shy of 3, but I know that I could have acted faster.
I know that too.
We all feel
that too.
Everybody feels that way. But you know, we talk about early intensive behavior intervention and when is early. For some people, that's 1. For some of us, it's 3. For other people, it's 5. For other people, it's 22. And I know that early makes us all tense, but early means as soon as possible. And so you did. Forgive yourself.
And,
you know what I mean?
And that is why you're doing the work you're doing, and why I'm doing the work I'm doing, and Shannon's doing, because we want other families to have the benefit of, if they see the signs of the year, get in there, get the diagnosis. So, Gabriella, can you tell us just a little bit about your journey? Enzo was diagnosed at 3. Then what was the next step for you?
Well, the next step for me was, first of all, again, going back to those cultural and family barriers, my first big task was to convince my immediate family that Enzo needed help. That was very big for me. It took a little bit of work. But then after that, we were all on the same page.
And your husband, Rafael Luneta, who is also an Act Today board member, did he have a tough time with it?
Very. Very hard time. Very hard time. It took him a little longer to understand it and to come to terms into it, and more importantly, Nancy, to find his place in this battle. Because we all take a stand, we all take a place, and we can all interact and work forward and to move this child into a better place. But he couldn't exactly know he didn't know what to do. He needed a lot more guidance. I think that we as women are more intuitive. We kind of know what to do. He was at times sitting with Enzo, and I could tell that he was so frustrated because he couldn't find the words to tell him, or how to touch him, how to approach him. It took him a little longer.
Of course, and I think it does with most husbands. So that's something that we want our viewers to hear, that your husband may not immediately accept this, that we have to use love and patience, but be persistent in helping our spouses walk this road with us and help us. So it took a while. Your family was in a bit of denial. and then you convinced them we need to move forward. What did you do to move forward first?
Well, we moved him from a preschool to another preschool, a higher quality preschool.
Yes.
Where I knew that these teachers were highly trained, and then I was making sure that he was among the right group of people. Then we accessed some of the services that are there through regional centers, through
Regional Center, which we have here in California. Now, this webcast goes all over the world, and some of you don't have the Regional Center, but for those of you that do, this is a very important step, isn't it, Gabriella?
It is, and you have to act fast with them. You have to be precise, accurate, and answer all the questions. Be there on time for your appointments.
Yes,
that
and
is
persistent. May I say persistent? Precise and persistent, because many times they're overwhelmed with this epidemic. And what I found was I called and called and called and called and called, and it could take you 6 months to get a meeting. But once you get that meeting, I think we need to look at Regional Center as a partner, as an advocate with us, because that's where we're going to get our services. And don't be in denial about the severity of the diagnosis as well. That's a mistake a lot of moms make, isn't it?
Yes, that's true. And also, well, first of all, I skipped one part, which was talking to my doctor, and the doctor, of course, said this child is fine. Right? That was another big thing. And I said, no, for whatever reason, I feel that it's not right. And it was another mom who told me, maybe you need to have him checked.
And where did you go for that?
Regional Center. She gave me a telephone number, and I immediately remembered it. I just put it in my brain, and I pulled it out of my memory as soon as I got home, and I called that number.
Well, we hear this time and time again, Gabriella. Mother's intuition, if you feel that your pediatrician, because this happened to all three of us, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
My pediatrician told me that autism was the latest trendy soccer mom's disease, and wait a while. And your pediatrician didn't get it, your pediatrician didn't get it. Get a diagnosis. Go to several places. If your gut is telling me my child is not developing properly, go to a place where they'll listen to you and you can get a diagnosis, because you'll need that diagnosis to access services.
Exactly, and don't be afraid of that diagnosis also, because when they called me, they were like, okay, I'm going to tell you over the phone. She said, I'm going to give him PDD diagnosis, because he was only 3 years old. Well,
PDD, pervasive developmental disorder.
Correct.
Not otherwise specified.
Not otherwise specified. That's what we got first.
Exactly. And she said, don't be scared of the diagnosis. And this particular psychologist, she was also a great psychologist for me.
Yes.
She immediately started treating me right then and there. She said, the diagnosis will help you to access the services, as you said, Nancy. And so it happened.
Okay.
And from there, I was very close trying to find, well, then I went to my meeting with the school district, which was horrendous. Something again in me said, don't sign the paper, take it with you.
The IEP.
The IEP, the Individualized Educational Program. And I said, and I told the person there, and I said, can I take this home with me? And he said, like, oh yeah, didn't I mention this is your right, that you can take it with you?
Forgot that, huh? Okay.
So I had to take it, and I went home.
You went home.
Right then, that day, as they were evaluating Enzo bumped into a chair in that classroom. He hit his head. He was bleeding from the forehead. Still, he was telling me that he was not that bad. He was not severe. He could navigate a classroom. And I'm like, really? This is an empty classroom. He just bumped into a chair. Now he's bleeding from the forehead. What part of not navigating a classroom am I missing?
Yeah, exactly. So you did get assistance with an advocate or an attorney, is that correct?
I had to access an attorney.
Yes.
Definitely, I had to. Once the school had told me what services they were going to provide him with, I felt that there was so much more that I could access.
Okay.
And I said, I have to call this attorney, and they, of course,
who we've had as a guest on the show.
Valerie.
Yes, she's been wonderful.
And they were, and she was really good at telling me, well, this is what you can have, this is what they're giving you. You tell me how far you want to go. And I said, I want to go for everything.
Right, right.
Of course, we had meetings. We had a lot of, a lot of struggle. The district said they wouldn't provide him with that. We had to come back with with more documents and more meetings, and it was a little bit draining. But I hung in there. I learned a lot in the process. My English got better in the process. And so to all those Spanish-speaking mothers or bilingual mothers right now, I want to tell them you need to brush up your English, and also there's people who are professional translators, and they are there to help you out. If you don't understand the terms, you need to access these translators.
That's so important to point out.
Yeah.
You're entitled to a professional translator at an IEP.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, at all times.
All right, very important information.
Yes, and you need to be able to understand every piece of paper that they give you. Do not sign everything if you cannot read it.
Okay.
That's the rule of thumb.
Very good to know. So Enzo got the proper assistance at school. He got the proper placement. Did you do behavior therapy with him in addition to school?
Yes, behavior intervention is key.
Okay.
I don't know where he would be without ABA. I don't know where he would be without behavior intervention. Speech played a role in it, but really all the language that he is accessing during ABA intervention is just already so great.
Yes.
So big.
Yes.
That I would say if there's not enough hours in the day, there was times where I was supposed to choose, okay, do I take him here or do I take him here? I mean, the day has only so many hours and the child has to rest. So I decided that ABA was the thing for him.
Yes.
I wouldn't skip 1 hour of that.
Okay, good, good. Also a very good recommendation.
And also, Nancy, I want to point out, CARD was not the first agency that provided Enzo with ABA.
Okay.
And there's other agencies. Some of them are not good. So you really have to make sure that you're there and that you see the progress of the child, that you see what he's learning, that you see if he's understanding, if the therapist is well trained, the data that they take, how do they track that child?
Okay.
You know, how do you know if he's really getting it?
Yes.
It's very important for you to learn about these things.
Absolutely.
Okay. And also, as you know, we offer skills to our Act Today families through grants.
Yes.
And skills is a great tool for families that cannot access a good program, aren't near a location where, say, a CARD is close to them, or another good agency. They can do skills and come quite a long way with their children, with themselves or a caregiver implementing that program.
I use skills at home and I love it.
Okay, so we want to really promote that and mention that skills grants are available through Act Today. So once again, I think we just want to thank you for coming today.
Yes, thank you.
And we want everybody to come to our website, our Act Today website, and they will learn more about Act Espanol there. We're going to be building services on as we're developing this program. It's a program we're building right now, and we'll be having you again at the educational fair in October. We'll be having the brochures available, and this DVD that we're actually taping today should be available shortly, so be on the lookout for that. And really hoping to reach out to our Latino community and give them the tools that they need. And if there was one thing you could say, Gabriella, to the families out there listening today, the Spanish-speaking families, about what they can do if they feel their child either has autism or has already been diagnosed, what would it be? Can you think of what that would be?
I would tell them, don't be afraid, don't be scared, speak up, speak out, talk to people, talk to the teachers, talk to your friends and family, talk to the people at the church. I'm sure you're going to find somebody who has started already navigating this world, and they will help you out.
Wonderful advice.
Great words.
Great. Thank you so much for being here.
Shannon, thank you. Thank you very much,
Gabriella.
Nancy.
I'll be seeing you a lot.
We'll be back with more Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I was just laughing because I was saying she's just so strikingly beautiful and so fabulous and has this wonderful persona and just beautiful to look at that I just feel like a big pile of poo sitting next to her.
Oh, would you please? You have your own beauty, Miss Shannon.
Well, but you
and
know,
your own
she has
inner
that
glow and your outer glow. I am here to tell you right now, right, viewers?
I got lots of glow, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but in any case, she was just striking and beautiful inside and out. She was amazing to have here in the studio, and I'm so glad that she's on the job because there needs to be so much more information.
Yeah,
and how wonderful that it can come from such a beautiful package like that.
Yeah, and someone that has a lot of clout in the Hispanic community and very concerned about her community as well as the autism community.
And the passion.
Yeah, just yet another activist advocate that all of you are. You're all activists. You're all advocates. If you're making the world a better place for your child, you're making the world a better place for all of our children.
That's right.
So we wanted to talk. We're going to go into a fabulous video here. We talked a lot about the program. I'm particularly proud of our Act Today for Military Families program, as you know, that we launched 2 years ago. We've given close to $200,000 in direct grants to military families. I'm particularly proud of it because having a son with autism and having a father who was a decorated Marine who passed away 2 weeks ago. My husband served in the Navy, and I've had many family members, an uncle who was an admiral, and really the stresses on the military family are so great, even with typical children. So you add to that the stresses of having a child with autism, the fact that most families move in the military every 2 years. They lose their place in line for services. It's really a critical situation. So we were the first to start a campaign like this. Autism Speaks has been supporting us with legislation, the Combating Autism Act, but we help the families directly. And we came up with a program with Joey Travolta, John's brother, who we had on the show. And he runs the Inclusion Film Project for children with autism and other developmental delays. We put together a camp down in San Diego. And it was a 2-week camp designed for military children with autism. We did have some of their siblings and a couple of other kids in the area that did come in. We did it with Cox Communications. It was a huge success. And I think Emily has the video ready, and we can show you how it turned out.
I can't wait to see this.
Okay, here it comes.
Okay.
Today has partnered with Cox Communications to bring Inclusion Films to San Diego. Led by Joey Travolta, Inclusion Films teaches filmmaking to developmentally disabled children.
It's a practical film camp where we take them through the process of making a film. And each group, we split them into 3 groups, and they're each responsible for making a short film together as a group. How many people like animation in this group?
This is a wonderful opportunity for children to build their self-confidence, to develop new friendships, and it's also an opportunity for their siblings to come and to enjoy the company of other peers in this really wonderful, fun setting.
Okay, so you know what time it is?
Cox Communications has years of supporting the community. We believe in giving back to the communities we serve, and military, youth, and education are our 3 pillars. And so this really matched up with everything that we're about and what we're trying to do to give back to the San Diego community. And so we were thrilled to meet up with Act Today and Inclusion Films and to have this wonderful synergy. 3 organizations really trying to move towards a common cause.
Oh, are we ready?
There you go, got it.
Okay, you'll be talking to me, okay? So tell me your name, say my name is. In the past, we've done the Junior Apprentice, which was a takeoff on The Apprentice, the Really Late Show, which is a takeoff on The Tonight Show. And this year, we're doing a combination of 60 Minutes and Entertainment Tonight called 30 Minutes Tonight.
Okay, good. So now you understand what an improv is. You guys get the idea what an improv is? To go with the flow of something, especially in the action.
My son Elijah, he's into movies and he's into music, and so this program might bring out his particular skills.
Amazing. You're like a professional animator.
Every single person here we've met has been so kind, loving, and caring. They've given Nicholas the opportunity to be himself and be around people who have the same passion and interest as he does.
What is it you learned with filming? What did you learn?
That filming is kind of tricky.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp
and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get 2 kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate. And when they collaborate, they come up with a product that everybody can see. They're a part of something. They become a community, they become a family. When you make a film, you really become a family.
Are we having fun at film camp? Yeah! You know, we are close to Hollywood. Yep. And Hollywood is always looking for young talent like this.
Autism is an epidemic, and it is not going to get any better anytime soon. Families are struggling to pay the bills, to put food on their table, let alone provide services for their children. And ACT Today is a vehicle of support for these families by helping them get access to life supports that they couldn't otherwise have.
My experience in film camp has been great, and I just really love how all you guys decided to bring us together.
What I learned here, I learned to animate, how to operate the plot board. I learned about the animation and filming and making friends.
Making new friends and acting.
Meeting new friends. You can be anything you want to be.
Okay, that just made me well up.
I'm crying now. I'm crying. I fell in love with those children, could you tell?
Oh my goodness, how exciting is that?
And I have to tell you that several of those children blossomed into, I would say, animators, editors. They are now at the caliber that they could go in and intern, a few of the older ones, for major entertainment companies. Wow. And what Joey Travolta does with these kids is simply magic. And we're planning on doing this next year. Okay. And the even more exciting thing is that we're taking the film that the children did, 30 minutes, which is a takeoff on 60 minutes. Right. And then Joey produced a documentary. Those are going to be airing on Cox Cable, which is down in the San Diego area. Right. And we're entering those films in the San Diego Film Festival in September.
How
so
wonderful.
There's still after stories, so we'll keep this going. And we have a couple of parents in the military that want to come talk to us about raising their children in the military and what this experience meant to them. So we're going to have them in upcoming weeks too.
Oh, I just love that. And for those of you who are watching and you think, okay, but I'm not there in San Diego, I just want you to know that there are more and more of these things that are happening.
Yes, and Joey, I do believe, does the workshop in other areas of the country. We'll give you that information. In fact, I think they just ended one in the New Jersey area, or it's just starting. I think yesterday in the New Jersey area. So he has camps, these 2-week camps around the country. I have a friend that I was trying to hook up with, the one in New Jersey, that I hope that she's participating in it. Okay.
Her son.
We'll make a note of that, and we'll get you that info.
Absolutely. Inclusion Films, though, Joey Travolta's Inclusion Films.
And here in LA, the regular program, not the camp, but here in Los Angeles, in the Burbank area, Regional Center will fund your child to go to that in the afternoon.
And that's the older kids, though, right?
Older,
or is that,
Well, I think you have to be, I think it's 12 and up.
Oh, okay. That's, I was thinking they had to be 16.
Maybe 10 and up.
Okay. Really amazing, and we love Joey Travolta, had him here. He's the real deal. But I wanted to take a little bit of time here at the end of the show. Should we take a break or just continue on? You want to take a break?
Well, we have a little time. Let's regroup and then we'll come back.
Okay, so we'll take a break, we'll come back, and we're going to talk about what we know so far. You know, where we are in the story, catch you up a little bit about some things going on this summer, catch up with Nancy on some things that have been going on with her, and maybe get a suggestion or two from you. Yeah. So stick with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Okay, we're back, and we're looking up some information for you.
My computer just froze.
Oh,
I hate
no.
that when that happens.
Because we want to make sure we give you the right information.
It will freeze in a second.
We'll find out. There it is, the Autism Conference. Nope, that's the one in Phoenix. We're looking for the one in Pasadena, but we'll find it.
I will find it. But in the meantime, I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about some things that have been going on, because we missed a couple of weeks of just touching base with viewers. And your dad passed away.
My father passed away. 91 years old, passed away at home. I was with him when he passed, which was a great blessing. My father was such an important figure in my life. He and my mother raised my younger brother, David, who had Down syndrome. He lived with them his whole life until he died at the age of 38. And they were just great role models. I lost my mother 8 months ago. So within an 8-month period, I lost both parents, and it was extremely difficult. But they taught me a lot about commitment and love and how a special needs child can be such a blessing. So they were great role models for me. But there's been a lot of stress in my household. My husband went through chemotherapy for several months for prostate cancer. That, in addition to my parents dying, I think really affected my son. And I think that's something that we need to be aware of, because we met with his ABA supervisor yesterday, and we talked a lot about that some of the behavioral things we're seeing with him could just be reactions to the stress. And so that's something that you all should be aware of, that when there's upheaval in the household, your child may be exhibiting some behaviors.
And it always filters down.
It does filter down.
Whether your kid is on the spectrum or not, it filters down. And I think a lot of times we're so busy going through our stuff that it can be left out of the conversation. And I so appreciate that you're wanting to talk about that, because I think, you know, for those of you watching at home to realize, because Nancy always comes in and looks like she has it all pulled together. You know, you always look great.
I do not always have it all together, and I'll have to admit to you, I've been struggling a lot these last few weeks.
And to realize that, you know, and we all know this, right? But, you know, you deal with autism, and it's a roller coaster ride in and of itself, but it's not like the rest of life and all the other things that happen to people stop. It doesn't. It comes hand in hand.
You're right, Shannon. And autism is difficult enough to deal with, much less put in other stressors: death of parents, death of a spouse, illness of a spouse, unemployment, financial concerns, and basically, you've got autism, you've got financial concerns. So hand in hand. I guess the one thing I urge parents to do is, if they have some of these same challenges, I openly admit that I'm getting some counseling to deal with some of my feelings about the loss of my parents, my husband's illness. It's been, you know, I feel like sometimes, and I'm sure some of the viewers can relate, and you probably can as well. I said to the therapist I was talking to about some of my anxiety, that I feel like there's a tray on my head, and I feel like that tray has about 20 glasses of water filled to the brim, and that if any one of those glasses could fall, the whole tray is going to fall off the head, and complete disaster.
Because it's a balancing act that you're just barely making.
So the best advice I can give for these times in our lives when we have crisis, in addition to the crisis of having a child with autism, the stress, the everyday stress of that, is if you're undergoing extra crisis, one day at a time, one step at a time, know you're doing the best you can. And some of your child's behaviors may get worse. And what we've noticed with Wyatt, and I think I've shared this, I know I've shared it with you many times and talked to you about it, and I wanted to ask our viewers. My son, one of our greatest challenges still, he's made so many great strides in language, verbal reciprocity, conversation, eye contact, socializing more. He's doing a lot of great things. He has a very severe self-stimulatory behavior with splashing water. Now, he would rather splash water than do anything. There is absolutely no reward that can replace that overwhelming desire to calm his system by splashing. So it's manifests itself. We've had to put locks on all the bathrooms because he can't go into the bathrooms. He also likes to make soap bubbles, so we have to hide the soap, hide the shampoo, and he'll splash anywhere. He'll splash in toilet water if he can. He'll splash in a pool. He won't, rather than swim, he'll just sit there like this, so he won't interact with other children. So it's a huge, huge obstacle because it prohibits him from participating in life. So I thought I'd ask our viewers today, and along with, of course, seeking the advice of our behavior therapist, who we are working on different plans, trying different things. Right. But this is a hard nut to crack.
Yeah, the self-stimulatory behavior is the hardest because it's hard to know exactly what about it is reinforcing to the child.
Yes.
You can't get into their head to figure out exactly what it is.
And it's an automatic reward for them.
Yep.
And you can't control when they're in the bathroom.
Right.
You know, he's 10 years old. Right. I can't be with him in the bathroom, and particularly when he's getting into these preteen years.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd ask our viewers if they have a child with some self-stimulatory behaviors that are so difficult to deal with. Yep. Some of the things they might recommend to me. I need advice too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you've had anything that's worked for you, please let me know. My husband said yesterday we're going to look into swimming lessons again. We tried them years ago, but all he would do is splash. And he's a great swimmer, by the way, but he'd prefer to sit there and splash than swim. So my husband said maybe if we just get him in with a tough swimming coach, who knows, he might become the next Michael Phelps.
And you know, that could happen. That could happen. But we don't give up. And
no,
that's
we
what
don't
I love.
give up. I'm not giving up.
You're in the middle of all these other things, and of course, you know, this conundrum of that you're having all this pressure, all these things, the tray on your head in a moment when your child's behaviors ratchet up.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of you can relate to that at home.
Yeah.
You know, and that you're still in trying to figure out the solution, recognizing what the issues are, the challenges are, and saying, okay, what haven't I done?
Yeah.
You continue to be an inspiration.
But I'm determined that Wyatt will eventually do something with water that is positive.
Right.
And we can, I believe we can transition that obsession with water into something great. I mean, maybe he'll open a car wash, maybe.
You know, it's going to be something. And I think at some point you are going to figure out what is more reinforcing to him and what can fill that need. But that is the toughest nut to crack when it is automatically reinforcing. That is the hardest thing of all.
Yeah.
But I know you're going to solve it, whether it's somebody at home helping you, you're going to figure it out on your own, and then you're going to tell us.
Yeah, just give me suggestions. You never know what suggestions from another parent can lead to. They can lead to miracles.
Absolutely. We should also mention, too, very quickly, because we're almost out of time, that you are speaking at the 7th Annual Back to School Autism and Asperger Conference at the Pasadena Convention Center
on August 11th. That's a Saturday. I believe I'm at 12:30. I'm at 12:30, and I am doing my speech on a journey through autism to empowerment, how we can look, and I'm going to be preaching to myself. People. There are days when I get up there, and I have to say, perfect timing, because I feed on the energy of the audience. And when I meet these parents in my speeches, when I walk through the audience and I try to get to know them. And by the way, I'll be giving out some I'm an Activist mugs and my 10 Steps to Empowerment. So
if you want to attend, we should tell you that it is under the umbrella of Autism Conferences America. You can go to their website, Autism Conferences of America.
And we'll put up the information next week.
Yes,
that'll be the Wednesday before.
Want to remind you, too, that we don't have enough time to show you all the different ways you can get in touch with us, but remember that you can email us, you can Facebook us, you can tweet us. We appreciate all of your suggestions, comments, loved all of your questions today. We're going to be back next week with some really exciting, we think we're going to have Danny Bowman with us next week.
Yes, who's a brilliant young animator who turned some of her obsessions into a great career.
Right.
And then I think we've got Ricky Jay, the rapper.
It's the week after.
Oh, is that the week after?
I think it's the week after. But in any case, that's okay. In any case, we have to say goodbye, but I hope until we see you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. that you will give your kiddos a hug from me.
And catch the joy as it flies.
Absolutely. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.